Okay. Sorry, guys. Lord, it's a long day, huh? Um, this portion talking about performance measures, and then the next one just about member development, which will go over like some of those events that will happen through the year. Um, we'll we'll get through them by 4 o'clock for sure. So this isn't like a super long PowerPoint. Um, okay. I think also too, as I'm talking, returning members, if you would like to share what works best for you about how to kind of incorporate your service forms into your daily tasks to kind of stay on top of it with what you're already doing, would be really great. Just add those tips in the chat for our new members. So what I'll talk about is basically you are probably seeing the word performance measure reporting and thinking, what the heck is this? So, in a nutshell, performance measures, it's a metric to help demonstrate the impact of AmeriCorps programs. So, programs set a goal, and this is how we say, like, look, this is what we accomplished. This is why our program is needed. This is why our funding needs to continue so that people can continue to be served across the state. So this isn't just like, oh my God, I'm in Homes for All and I have to do this. Reporting, there's reporting probably tied to almost any position. So this is the type of reporting that is going to be tied to your position. So um, I just want to add to before I get into it that this is not any attempt to reduce people to numbers. We do not expect you to capture every single interaction or person that you talk to or work with during your term of service, and it's really not meant to be a lot of work. But the way that our program is designed, we have members doing multiple things, and your position may look completely different than someone else's position in our program. So we have made it as seamlessly as possible. So it's about sharing about your service, or sorry, this is just like a little quote. Sharing about your service helps share the story of AmeriCorps and national service. So kind of think about why you're reporting. Think about that first slide deck where I showed you the impact of Kentucky AmeriCorps programs from 23 and 24. These numbers are shared, they are reviewed by a lot of people, and they're so important. So we've made it as easy as we can. We don't want to add stress, but this kind of leads into who are we reporting to? So you as the person, or as the member, you're reporting to me or program, your site, because you are demonstrating the value and importance of what AmeriCorps members are doing and what it does. It's helping show how your position is making a difference in your community. And it's also showing our supporters, Congress, AmeriCorps, Serve Kentucky. When we have these performance measures, it's a tangible way of letting supporters know why Homes for All is so important and why this program needs funding to continue to partner with housing organizations across the state. So for this year, our output is 800 individuals. So that's a combination of adults and children. This is program wide. This is not Hagen at the gathering place has to serve 800 individuals. This is our whole program. So as a whole, we are hoping to serve, our goal is to serve 800 individuals from September 1st to July 31st of 2026. That's a combo of adults and children and households. Of those 800 individuals, we hope the outcome is that 300 are housed. So they're either obtaining new housing, they're transitioning into permanent housing, or they're maintaining their housing. So you've helped them pay their rent, or you've helped them pay utility payments so that their house is still safe for them to live in. It's, we've got extreme heat and cold temperatures, things like that. So again, those are our program goals from September of this year to August of 2026. I know it's doable. I know that we can do it. Last year, I will say for our returning members, we did meet our output goal. We served 2,000 individuals. We did bump down our goals for this program year because we were, well, honestly, because our program size is smaller. So numbers need to change, and that's okay. But I know that we can meet our program goals, and I can't wait to see as the year goes on what these numbers look like, and the great work that you're doing to help serve and house people. Your sorry, it's getting towards the end of the day. Um, your position may have a volunteer component. So as a whole, we hope to recruit, train, and manage 550 volunteers for the program year. Like I mentioned, this is a collective goal. You don't have a set number to reach, but we definitely don't want you to underreport. And you want to report on um, substantial like relationships. So someone that you speak to over the phone one time, that's not someone you're going to report on. But someone that you have a relationship with and you are working with, that's who you want to report on. That's the household that we would want you to report on. And so we'll move into what reporting looks like. I just don't want you guys to think, oh my God, I have to report on every single person that I work with. No, we want you to report on the people that you have built that relationship with. It is an actual, working relationship. You're helping them get to that goal. We also know not everyone you work with is going to be housed. For whatever reason, there are tons of reasons why that outcome doesn't happen. So don't put that added stress on yourself. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to get every person housed that I work with. Of course, we want every person housed, but that you work with. But again, it needs to be manageable, and people have their own circumstances. Depending on what happens, it just may not work within your term of service, and that's okay. Who reports? Everyone reports. Everyone serving as a Homes for All AmeriCorps member, no matter what your position type is, will report. So we're going to go into the service form. So the forms that you will complete and submit to me monthly. So this slide just lists the information that we want collected on the form. So the general information that's up top, you put your name, you put your service site, you put a code name. So maybe your organization works with HMIS and they get assigned a number, or whatever type of system your organization works with. You can tie that case number or code name and use it on your performance measure service form as well. You don't need to confuse yourself. Or if your site doesn't do like a code name or whatever the case may be, you can make up your own that makes sense to you. And then you're going to put the date services began. So date you begin working with this household or this individual. There's going to be a section where you're just going to check mark their household eligibility documentation. You all are at sites where they keep the eligibility documentation on file. So they're typically going to be low income or zero income counted, but there are different options that you can choose from for the eligibility documentation that your site collects. Um, then below that, there's some household information that you will jot down. Some demographics. It is confidential and private. We do not need names. I don't need to know that it's Bertha Sloan. You literally just put adult one. If there are two adults, it would be adult one, adult two. Super simple. If you collect a date of birth, we ask for the date of birth or their known age. And it is there, you record the response from the individual. You do not assume their gender identity, race, or ethnicity. If they choose to not respond, just leave it blank. That's no problem at all. And then you're going to choose from the list of services on our form what you are providing to this member. So maybe you're doing their housing inspection. Maybe you're doing new home construction. Maybe you're doing a rehab project. Maybe you are doing rent or utility assistance. These are all services that are listed on the form. So it's not something that you have to like think of. We've pretty much summarized a list of services that most of our members are doing, or all of our members are doing, and you just check mark what one you are doing with that household or client. So some takeaways. You want to capture all of the information that you can for that household that you are actively working with. We ask that you do not wait until they're housed or done with services before filling out this form. Incorporate it into your paperwork process, or make time. If you are in a construction position, work with some of those office staff or your supervisor to get this information to us. Remember, we want it to be a substantial engagement. So you have a relationship, working relationship with this person. At minimum, you're going to create a code name or use a case number or something that your site uses in their database so that it's easy for you to know who this service form is connected to. The date you started working with this person or household, the number of individuals, that includes adults and children. There's a household type. So if it's one single person or one parent household, it's a quick check mark, and then the services you provided. Every month when I send out a monthly email to you guys, I will attach fillable PDF forms so that any new households that you've worked with that month, you can send to us. You're only reporting on these households one time. So when you started working with them and then when they're housed. And again, you're not going to report, if you reported on one family, say you reported on Bertha Sloan in the month of October, that's the only time you're going to report on her until she's housed, if that's the outcome for Bertha. I don't know where I got the name from, but that's what we're going with this time. So again, you don't report on the same people over and over. Only new people either added to your caseload or new people that are assigned to you, whether it's intake calls or rent or utility assistance or housing searches or construction. So the next thing we'll talk about is the wrap up form. And so the wrap up form is only completed when this person successfully transitions into housing or maintains their housing. So you're going to do a service form for everyone that receives services from you, but that does not mean that that person will have a wrap up form. We hope that they do, but if you're working on a new home build, it may not be done during your term of service. So, a household may not be identified for the wrap up form. Um, so you're going to want to make sure under the general information, the code names match. So that's for me to know, okay, 123 is the same 123 that's housed. Those code names go together. This is the wrap up form for Bertha. We're just going to keep using Bertha. And then you're going to put the date services ended. So the date services ended would be the date that they are housed. They moved into their own apartment. They tell you, they're self-reporting that they found their own place. Their lease or mortgage, if they receive a housing voucher. That's how you're going to determine what date and what proof of housing for the wrap up form. We do not need the proof of housing sent to us. I know that's something that your sites keep on file. I don't need that. I just need the wrap up form. Or if your site uses something else to demonstrate that this person's um, housing is complete and they're housed permanently, that's the same. Again, there's like an other box on the form and you would just write that in there. And then you would sign it, and then your site supervisor signs this form. So the site supervisor reviews the wrap up form to ensure that the information that you are reporting on to me and to Homes for All is accurate and correct. So we don't, so some takeaways for the wrap up form. You want to complete it when that construction is finished, if it's finished during your term of service. If a person moves into permanent housing, if rent or utility assistance is provided, if they've obtained a housing voucher, a lease is signed, which I just talked about all of these, or whatever else it might mean for that person to be housed. Example of that would be case management for housing stability. So some of our positions, they are providing housing case management to individuals in permanent supportive housing programs. And so those people are housed, and the case management that they're being provided by the AmeriCorps member is ensuring their housing stability to help maintain their housing. And so if you're in a position like that, you would complete that wrap up form. You're not going to use it when the household exits services before being housed. So that's what I was talking about. You'll do a service form for every person you're working with, but if they exit the shelter that you're serving at, you would not do a wrap up form because they were not, if they were not successfully housed. The volunteer report, if you have this component built into your position, it's done monthly as well. So you just write your name, your service site, and then the month for the volunteers you list. You would provide like a volunteer group name or an ID. Again, it could be, First Baptist Church group. And then you're going to list the number of volunteers, if they're reoccurring or episodic, and the number of hours they served. So the number of hours. So in this example, if there are 5 volunteers and they serve 6 hours each, you're just going to multiply the 5 volunteers times the 6 hours each to get that 30-hour amount for that volunteer form. Some takeaways for the volunteer form. You want to make sure you're using the same group name or ID that you make if it's a reoccurring, if it's a reoccurring volunteer group. If it is a reoccurring volunteer group, you do want to avoid any duplication. So you're only going to report on them one time a year. You're going to update the number of hours served if that's applicable to that group, or that reoccurring volunteer. You're only reporting on volunteers that you trained, recruited, or managed to provide housing or financial services. Okay, so if you have a group that you are managing that's coming in for like a new home build, you would report on that volunteer group. If you have any questions about when to report on a volunteer group for their specific tasks that they're there to do, let me know. I don't care one bit to let you know if it's something you should report on or not. Because volunteers are great. However, we want to make sure that it's tied to housing services or housing related services. We report on the 15th of every month. So this isn't a new date that you have to remember. When we meet on the 15th or on or around the 15th of each month, I will give you a happy little reminder that new reporting forms are due that month. So you're going to report on the 15th of the month for the previous month. So let's say the month of September, you started working with 3 households. Then you would want to have those 3 household forms completed and emailed over to me by October 15th. Does that make sense? I haven't looked at the chat, but I will. You will fill out the copies and either scan and email them to me. You can take pictures of the forms and text it to me, or you can mail them to me to HHCK's office. So new forms can be downloaded, like I said, from the website in print, or that you can request the forms. I attach them to every monthly email that we send out. You can save blank forms to your service computer that your site's provided you, or you can print out a bunch and put it with the integrate it into the process that you're going to be doing that works with your position. Whatever works and makes it just kind of work and flow with how you like to do things. That's all I ask for. Volunteer form is the same on or the 15th of the month or of the month for the previous month. If you don't have a volunteer component to your position, then you don't need to do a volunteer form. But every position will be working with people or households that we will report on. If you don't serve any new people, or house any existing clients during a month, that's fine. Just email me and let me know. But not reporting or communicating monthly can lead to a corrective action plan. It is part of our AmeriCorps service year. Anyone serving in an AmeriCorps program has to do some type of reporting. And it is agreed in the member service agreement. It's part of the position description. Like I said, it is listed in many, many places. I think that's the last slide, but I could be wrong. Nope, it is. Okay. So I'm going to exit out of this really quick, stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to take a look at the chat before we move on quickly to member development. Is there, oh, Lola said, is there a reason, specific reason for the reduced program size? Yes, a cut in federal funding. Nothing on our programs, not at any fault of our program, is what I'm trying to say. Um, yeah. Hold on. Kaylee says, does it count if clients move into housing with relatives, or is it only if they get their own home? Um, I would not consider relative placement to be like permanent housing for our program specifically. So I would not do a wrap up form for that household. That was a good question, Kaylee. Holly, I'm currently training someone who is not a volunteer. Should the hours I have spent training be reported? Yes, you would report it as housing services. There's an older YouTube training that we recorded during COVID, like our timesheet one that we like to use because our performance measures and the way that we report hasn't changed. So I will also send that out as a visual. Some of you are at sites that have members that are still there in a different capacity. Use them to your advantage, or you are at a site that has served or has partnered with us in previous years. So our performance measure reporting is nothing new to them. So use the resources that you have around you, whether that's your site supervisor, whether that is a member that's still at your site in another capacity, like I mentioned. They can help you kind of figure out what your flow needs to be for our performance measures. But I just want to say I'm really proud of our members. I'm really proud of our 24, 25 program year. That was a 25 was a difficult year. And we met our goal of serving 2,000 individuals. And so you returning members are part of that. And I just want to say thank you. And I just can't wait to see how many we serve this year. Do you guys have any other questions about performance measures? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our last, oops. Um, our last PowerPoint. Give me just a second. And we'll get through this really quick. So if you need to stand up, take a drink of water, go right ahead. Okay. Also, before I move on to just like member development and the events through the year, um, If you have a specific question on just like getting started with performance measures, we can schedule a Zoom or we can talk over the phone and work out something that, if you have a specific question for your position, we can definitely talk through that if you're more comfortable with that. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Last part before we wrap up, let's talk about our member development intentions for the program year. So, the intention for the member development component of our grant is to really help develop or strengthen our members to be civically engaged individuals, not only during their term of service, but hopefully after as well as they continue on with whatever comes next. And we hope, or not, and this can happen through exposure to injustice or critical community needs. Um, some members come into service and they may not have experience firsthand or have known about a critical need prior to their service term and being at their site and just being, exposed to other things happening, whether it's in their community or in another part of the state. And so that's one way. And so the idea is to really get this development through community engagement. And that's because, as you saw in the AmeriCorps pledge earlier this afternoon, the pledge does state this year and beyond. And so we hope that you have some good takeaways and experience from this member development. Um, when we are doing anything regarding member development, you would log it under AmeriCorps training on your timesheet. And so I'll go on to the next slide. So member development components include, and we'll go through this like a breakdown on each slide, but there are our monthly member trainings. We'll talk about the point in time count or the K count. Martin Luther King Jr. Service Day, Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator, our Spring Service Project. We'll talk about the public awareness activity that can happen during any time of your service, or it could even be built into the position that you're in. We'll talk about member roundtables with Serve Kentucky, site visits, and then our end of year celebration. And so a lot of the components of our member development are things that I plan. And so it really is about participating with us as a program. Or it's like for example, the Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator training, that's planned by Serve Kentucky for all AmeriCorps programs. So monthly virtual member meetings, we ask that all of our members attend. So starting in October, you may see some newer names pop up, and it could be because they've started service after we've done our orientation today, or they're part of our VISTA program. If you can't attend virtually, like when it's happening live, we will record and we will send out that recording when I send out a recap email. It is an opportunity for all of us to be together as a program to talk about any updates. If there's a topic that you would like more training on, let me know. I love finding new topics to provide for some additional professional development training if it's within my means. So if it is within reach and attainable for me to do. But I love that. So if there's a topic you'd like us to hit on, let me know. So site visits will happen between October and December. They're not meant to be scary. I'm not a scary person. I just don't get to be with you guys on site every day. You guys are spread out across the state, and so we'll schedule a time that works well for your supervisor and for you. I just want to say hi, check in, talk about how we can make your experience the rest of the year better. We love just talking about what you've been doing. Um, you know, if there are other things that we need to talk about, we will talk about those as well. So there's usually conversation with me, the site supervisor, and you as the member together, and then I'll check in with you guys one on one. And then if we need to come back together, we can. But yeah, it's really just a way for me to check in person and just kind of hang out with you guys. This is a picture that I took of our previous member coordinator and previous member at one of our sites. So, um, as you can see, they're wearing their AmeriCorps gear. So, hopefully, you will do the same when we get those scheduled. Um, Another component of our member development is the point in time count or the K count. So this is a count of sheltered and unsheltered people that are experiencing homeless on one single night. So I even went back and changed this. January of 2026, KHC, the lead finance organization, they will release that date for January on when communities will have their point in time count. Um, and the purpose of the point in time count is to help understand homelessness in our communities and statewide. And then later on, after all of that data is collected, KHC will compile a report to share with housing agencies and others about what housing and homelessness looks like on this night. It's just kind of like a projection, and you can see compared to previous years that this point in time count has been completed. If the number of people experiencing homelessness has increased, and just kind of what those trends are compared to the previous years that this has been completed. Um, most of our counties do participate in the K count. If for some reason you are in a community that or county that does not participate, you can complete like a homeless service project. So maybe getting donations to provide some resource bags to those who or hygiene bags to those who are experiencing homelessness. We can kind of brainstorm on those ideas. Um, like I said, this will be January of 2026. I even ch changed this and somehow managed to put the wrong year again. Oh well. But this picture, this is the point in time count from last January that we completed in Frankfort. And I'm not in this picture because I was on maternity leave. The next component of our member development is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So this is a holiday for that, or sorry, this is a day of service for all AmeriCorps members enrolled in an AmeriCorps program across the nation, not just Homes for All, not just Kentucky. And it's for both of our members or both programs to participate. MLK Day this year is January 19th. That's a Monday. The next couple of months, I'll help kind of introduce you to other members serving in your area so that you guys can collaborate and do a project together. Um, on the right side, the lady in the Navy, she served last year in Moorhead. So that's a picture of her doing her service project. And then over in the bright yellow conference room, that is HHCK's office. We put together care kits for HHCK's office along with bags to take out with us when we were doing our point in time count. So they had, shampoo, hand sanitizer, a drink, a snack, hygiene products, and, so on for people who were experiencing homelessness. And so these are just some ideas. And I will help again connect you with other members in your area so that you can do something together. In previous years, we've tried to get our program together in like a central location. I'll try my best to do that this year. I just don't know if it will be possible. It never fails. There's always like a blizzard that comes either the day before MLK Day or on MLK Day. So yeah, it's one of those projects that we kind of have to play by ear. And if it has to be rescheduled to a later date so that it's safe for you to do, that is totally fine too. The public awareness activity. This is something that we started including probably in 2019, actually. And so the purpose is to help build on your public speaking skills. We want you to educate members of your community about AmeriCorps, homelessness, and the lack of affordable housing in Kentucky. I definitely didn't update this slide. Sorry about that. This needs to be completed by August 31st of 26. And sometimes, like I said, it could already be built into your position. It may be part of your position to do tabling events and speak to community members about what your site is doing. Sprinkle in information about AmeriCorps, sprinkle in some numbers in regards to the lack of affordable housing in Kentucky. You can go back and even review key parts to Adrian's Housing in Kentucky presentation that she did on September 15th and just add it to where you're going. In Moorhead, a lot of our members are going to Moorhead State and speaking to social work students. So that could be something that you talk to, and maybe your site already has that connection or relationship with a local school. We've had people go and participate in like career fairs at high schools. It is more than likely already something that you are going to be doing during your year. So just keep that in mind. I don't want this to be something that like stresses you out. I want it to be fun. Tabling is if this is a field that you're going to stay in and want to stay in, tabling is likely going to be something that you go and be a part of. Later on in the year, Serve Kentucky, our program officers will schedule out member roundtables throughout the state. And so it really is meant for our state service commission, our program officers to mingle with AmeriCorps members in all programs and talk about what your service experience is like. So state service commissions, most of their work is with program staff. And so this is a way for them to stay connected with members in our programs that they are monitoring and making sure that we are compliant and all of those things. like I said, these are typically scheduled in like the spring. So like spring 26, um, I definitely know after the holidays, way after the holidays, we'll start getting that schedule. Um, I don't think it'll be as early as January, but I put January because you never know. And if there is a roundtable scheduled near you, we will expect you to attend. We will give you ample notice about when that is happening near you, and we will also send you the our program's mileage form so that you can complete the mileage form, and we will reimburse you for your travel and representing Homes for All and your time spent during the roundtable. So even your travel time, your time there with our program officers, and your travel time back home will all count towards your service hours. Our spring service project, the intention is to gain knowledge of just a different housing service skill. We typically partner with a housing organization, or I'm sorry, we're all housing organization, a construction organization. We just have so much fun. We get to learn more about what that specific organization does. We get to talk to their team, and also have some leadership from our AmeriCorps members that are serving at that organization. And then, like I said, we always have a non-construction activity for members that don't have the ability to do construction work but want to be with us. We will always make sure that there is a non-construction activity for you guys to do as well. And I kind of hop back and forth between both. Um, so that will be scheduled later in spring of 26. Our end of year celebration will be scheduled mid-July of 26. Like I've mentioned, it's an opportunity for us to celebrate our accomplishments. We give you some member recognition gifts with your national service certificates of completion that are signed by the governor. And we just really reflect on what the year of service has looked like. And we talk about how you can use your education award and share any career resources that we find beneficial that you can take with you. And that's all. So I'm going to stop sharing. I am going to hit stop recording.